No one asked for a Fast and the Furious TV series, so why is Vin Diesel giving us 4 of them? It's the Last Picture with Rahim Khan, and for those of you who are familiar with this channel, you know I'm no fan of Dom Toretto, the family, and the Fast and the Furious franchise. But it seems that the franchise has now passed into the realm of being considered a classic. This is, of course, not my words, but the words of Dom Toretto, Vin Diesel himself, who last week at the Cannes Film Festival on the red carpet was asked by a reporter, how he felt being there. And he's like, he turned the question back on her, which started off really weirdly because she said, you were my, I don't know, childhood crush or something. But, not getting into that. But he did say, it was like, it's quite the feeling to be considered a classic. It is a classic now. I mean, sort of 25 years ago, we were given the very first Fast and Furious movie, which I remember watching. And even back then, I was completely nonplussed. I mean, street racing, Paul Walker, Vin Diesel, who I really, really like from Pitch Black. But yeah, I remember even back then, didn't like the movie. Thought it was like, just a very average, like sort of crime thriller type thing. And okay, did it warrant a sequel? Did it warrant a trilogy? Did it warrant an entire franchise that is raked in $7.5 billion? 10, well, almost I would say 12 movies if you include like Hobbs and Shaw and the other ones, and even that kids animated series. So yeah, I mean, all the way back then. And who's this directed by? This is directed by that guy who did Triple X. Then I'm forgetting his name. But I'm saying all the way back then. You can imagine that sort of cinema would be cursed so with this goddamn franchise. I don't think so. And now they're going to further our pain by giving us 4, not 1, not 2, not 3, but maximalist 4. 4 TV spin-offs. So apparently, the 11th movie in the franchise, which is coming out sometime in 2028, that is going to be the last movie, which is an odd number to end on. I would have assumed they would have want to go for like, 12 or something. But okay, thank God. 11 is going, 11th, the 11th is going to be the last one. There's also going to be a sequel to, I think, Hobbs and Shaw. And now, the actor made the announcement on Monday morning at the NBC Universal Upfront presentation. Peacock is launching 4 shows in the Fast and Furious universe. Apparently, this includes like a prequel. So I can see it right now. It's going to be some kiddie like prequel with a young Dom Toretto and how he sort of like, became the main man and all of that shit. Then I think there's going to be like, the minor characters, the ones who died or didn't die. They're apparently going to be getting like their own spin-offs. Man, who gives a shit? Nobody cares. And I know there are a lot of you out there, and I hope you do disagree with me in the comments. Please do. But no, just no. Fast and the Furious. There's a quote. I'm not sure if it's apocryphal, but we might as well, sort of repeat it. In which Werner Herzog was talking about sort of how he, would prefer a kung fu movie over sort of like, high art of Jean-Luc Godard or anything like that. I get it. We go there, we go to the movies to be entertained and all of that stuff. But when a movie like this, which doesn't respect physics, just, perpetuates bad cinema, bad filmmaking. You're not going to find a friend in me. You're not. For those of you who did catch my Last Bullet 3 review, It's a French trilogy. It's a French series made for Netflix or made by Netflix, whatever. Ballet Perdu, that's the French name. The Lost Bullet. Sorry, the Lost Bullet. Now that movie, similarly, again, it's sort of drugs, organized crime, bars, bike, and sort of one hero caught in the midst of this all, who's apparently this great mechanic who can really soup up cars and do that. Now that I think is the perfect foil with something like the Fast and the Furious, right? Because sure, they do tend to exaggerate, but I think that there's a realness, there's an exhilaration, there's an originality to those movies. In the first two, at least, I didn't like the third one. The first two were amazing, really, really good action thrillers. And if you guys haven't seen those movies, please head on over to Netflix and watch them today. Really good, like, set pieces with the cars, with hand to hand combat, good fight scenes, all of those combined with a decent enough story as well. Now, those worked for me. I'm not saying I'm above, what's it called, your average, popcorn film or something like that. Absolutely love them. They are sort of the bread and butter of cinema. But there is a point at which you've got to realize that the Fast and the Furious is like dross. It's just so unbelievably bad. So, like, forget flying in the face of, like, physics. Just come on, man. How many times are we gonna fucking see Tom Toretto, who again is like a street level thug slash racer, going up against like these elite soldiers and kicking ass and like sort of wearing his, what are those, like his Venom like shirt vest, and enough, please, for the love of God, stop. When did I stop watching these movies? I think I stopped watching it after like the seventh or eighth one. I definitely have not seen the last two. Or even if I have, I've seen them as like reels or something, where it's just like the most ridiculous parts of the movie. I can, of course, quote them to you. Where, like, they're one goddamn, like, muscled up car is dragging like a 10-ton vault across the streets of, what is it, Rio de Janeiro. Or him, the Dubai scene where it's like, from building to building, and or the submarine one. Where, do you remember that one scene where, the submarine pops up? The car comes, and in order to like protect the people from like the blast, he goes like that, right? Sorry, sound effects included. He goes like this. And for some reason or the other, forget physics, he fails to realize that there's a gap underneath the car. And this is where physics does not give a shit for Dom Toretto. Blast wave and the fire and the flames can very well enough go underneath the car. But no, it just stops right there. Okay, these are, I would say, quibbles. You would say that, it's mindless fun. We want to be in the cinema to sort of, switch off for like an hour or two, which is again why I am preaching here today movies that are like, again, like The Lost Bullet. It is a smart movie. It is done very inventively. I mean, sort of like, a lot of their set pieces with the cars, but also with the fight scenes are really well done. They're very well thought out. And I have to say this, the FNF team, the Fast and the Furious team, could learn a thing or two from a movie like that. Now, of course, we're getting a cinematic universe, because the thing is that now that they've already made 11 movies, which I think 11th will be, of course, the last one. But with the 11th movie, I think this will be maybe the longest running, what's it called, franchise. Maybe there are others that are not coming to mind right now. But yeah, there's that. And for some reason or the other, the movie's ending with a cookout in their backyard somewhere in LA. Food better be good, man. But just all of that stuff, the entire like sort of the style, everything about this movie, man. Like, movies, you guys haven't tuned in to like listen to me just rant about, or at least rage about how much I dislike these movies. But what you have, I hope, tuned in for is to maybe debate the not I was going to say the unnecessary spin-offs, the TV spin-offs. Why does Hollywood think that they must? Now I get it. It's a way to sort of again perpetuate the brand, to continue the franchise, because again, it's a real good like sort of tag team seesaw type thing where like, okay, the movies are doing badly, or at least people have now fatigued. Let's move on to TV. Then, for example, you run this for a couple of seasons and then you move on from this back to the movies and you just keep on coming and going and sort of like oscillating between these two things. Cool, good for you guys. But I would have liked to see this. Now, okay, when I mentioned this at the very start of the video, that, for example, like I like Vin Diesel. I don't like what he has now become, because the thing is that, do you guys remember his movie Find Me Guilty, directed by Sidney Lumet? He's a good actor. And yet we have not seen this guy. Like, he has wasted himself on the Fast and the Furious franchise. Because other than these movies, what else has this guy done? I mean, sure, he's Groot, and he is a pretty good Groot, but there's that. Then there's the Pitch Black trilogy, which I hate to say, was ruined by the third movie, because the first one, very good. It introduces us to this, like, really interesting character, Riddick, played by, of course, Vin Diesel. Then, and the first movie, if you remember, was like a very straight up, like sort of sci-fi monster movie type thing. Cool. And the second one, and this is why I really like the second one, directed by David Warkey, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, is that, they take that character and they really expand upon that universe and put him in a completely different setting. And so now we have Riddick becoming this sort of savior to the, the universe, to the galaxy or whatever. He's up against those people. What are those guys? I'm forgetting the antagonist in that movie, and it just really takes the character in the movie, the character and the original film, in a completely different direction. I love that, and I really wanted the third movie to build upon it. Unfortunately, it didn't do it, because all it did was retread the first movie, completely disregarding what the second had achieved. So now, if Mr. Diesel wanted to build upon a franchise, I would have liked to have seen him delve further in the Riddick thing. Sure, we got like a cartoon, an animated series, and we got 3 films out of that. But yeah, okay, I get it. You have to run with the one that's most successful, and the Fast and the Furious movies were more successful. But yeah, it's a shame that this guy, I mean, again, I'm trying to think of what else this guy has starred in, and I can't think of anything. So, when this man's eulogy is written, may God give him a long life, of course. But I mean, what, he's just going to be remembered for FNF? God, I mean, sort of, if I have to see this dude walk around in a denim vest with jeans and Timberlands and sort of carrying around the pump action and sort of a diamond encrusted cross and talk about family and making fucking steak in his backyard in LA and driving up these souped up cars and shit like that. But I will not do myself any harm, but I will be here on this very channel to rail about it. I will sort of, enough. No more Fast and franchise movies. Please stop. I really want to see what you guys have to say in the comments, because, you don't make $7.5 billion, because, average that out over like, of 10 movies or something like that. That means that every movie on average made about like what, $700 million? Almost, yeah. Yeah, almost $700 million. That's a lot of money, man, for these movies. That the tank fucking scene. Do you guys remember that? When he does that jump over the bridge? is that Michelle Rodriguez character dead? Because I hated her in the first movie. In fact, I don't like Michelle Rodriguez. I do not like her as an actress. There's this sneering quality to her that I just do not like. And yeah, I hope she's dead. So I don't have to see her in the character is dead. Like even John Cena, who actually I really like that guy. He was brought down to this level. Jason Statham, I understand. The Rock, of course, he bite at anything. Um, yeah. Uh, Let us conclude at least the short episode with the refrain, with what I said at the very start. Do we need a Fast and the Furious franchise to extend into television? No.